denoted by T, is the rate at which the system generates money through sales. Very important, through sales. That means the product has been sold. If the product is lying in the inventory, will be sold, is not throughput. Throughput can only be booked after the product has been sold. Through this, we are trying to let the system know that something which is produced for inventory is not an asset, is nothing. You have just moved the raw material from one stage to second, and in that movement you have spent some money on it, processing costs. So FG is not throughput. 3. Operating expense, denoted by OE. All the money that a company spends on turning inventory into throughput. When we say all the expense, that means electricity, salary, consumables, etc., etc. It does not differentiate between indirect costs, overhead costs, variables, non-variables. Just plain operating expense means all the money the company spends in converting inventory into throughput. That means throughput means the sale has taken place. These three measurements come from a different mindset, from a different way of thinking. Throughput is something which the company retains within itself. That means if the money passes through your company to somebody else, it's throughput for that company, not for you. Let me start with an example. Suppose there is a product, the selling price of the product is 100 and the raw material cost is 40, and you are purchasing this raw material. Rest everything you do in the house, you process everything in the house and then sell the product at 100 rupees. So 40 is throughput of your vendors, of your suppliers. 60 is retained within your company. That means this is your throughput. The money that is going through your system to somebody else is not your money. It is somebody else's money, and it is not throughput. So if one product gives you 60 throughput, multiplied by the number of products you have sold, is the throughput you have generated for yourself. If there are multiple products, you need to know the throughput that each product will give you. So if I have to draw an equal to the current accounting practices, it means direct cost. All the direct costs that you can assign to a product, you minus from selling price, that's a throughput. So if you're giving a commission on the product, minus it. If you know very clearly that this is the money I've paid on processing this product, raw material from outside, okay, attach it. If you say that this product has a bought-in component, attach it. So indirectly what you are saying is, if one product gets sold, somebody pays you for it. From that you minus all the money that you give out, which you can directly assign to the product. The remaining is throughput. What is the direct cost? Direct costs are those costs which go down when you make one product less. Or they go up when you make one product more. Please don't assign overheads or etc. to this. Just take the product, take the selling price, minus all direct costs, raw materials, subcontracting, commission, etc. All the money that remains within your company then is throughput. So throughput may vary depending on the selling price to the customer. So what you do is you take a sum of all the throughputs, that becomes the throughput of the company for the period. And mind you, it is the rate at which the company makes money. Somewhere down the line, it is telling you that you have a limited time in which you have to calculate this. So you have throughput per day, throughput per week, or throughput per month. Throughput per hour. So if you can make more money per hour, the profit will go up. Is the rate. The driving factor is rate. And this is a big departure from normal, where we are in the cost world, or in current practices what we are looking at, revenue, sale price, because the allocation of overhead cost depends on the volume sold. So we start with the assumption of volume, and if the volume assumption is not met, the cost changes. So very often only on the hindsight we get to know how much of money we have made. In the throughput world, more or less it is a certainty. We know that this is a direct cost. We know if we sell X, X multiplied by the throughput of each product is the throughput I'll get in my company. From this throughput that I have got, I will make my expenses. In the throughput world, we are very clear what is an expense and what is an investment. In the cost world, sometimes we confuse ourselves. The machine cost 1 crore and it cost me more to travel in a taxi than in an auto. At both the places I've used the word cost. But both of them have to be treated differently. One is an expense, the other is an investment. In throughput world, we are very clear what is an investment and what is an expense. Expense is something which actually is the result of my decision making. And that is why it is all bunched together and called an operating expense. And yes, this expense you try to bring down. While bringing this down, you have to make sure the throughput keeps going up. Let me repeat. While trying to bring this operating expense down, you have to make sure that the throughput stays same or keeps going up. So, if in your attempt to bring the operating expense down, throughput goes down, you're making a wrong decision. We'll visit this again. Let me come to the third part, which is investment. Investment is all the money the company has invested in purchasing the material that it intends to sell. So partly will be raw material. You've also invested in machines which still can be sold. You have invested money in land and building which also can be sold. These are all decision. These are all decision based stuff. So now if you buy an expensive car, you've increased your investment. But if it doesn't translate into increased throughput, your performance of the company will go down. So this tells you where to put your money. Because if the purpose or the prime purpose of an organization is to make money, any investment you make within the company should actually increase your throughput while keeping your operating expense same or making it go down. If your throughput goes up and the operating expense also goes up, maybe you are not making the correct move. By defining these three things, we have actually put into place what to use in our formulas to come to the performance of a company calculations. And we know that the performance of the company is judged by three things: net profit, return on investment, and cash flow. Let us see how do we land up calculating